But I can tell you, I've been to Arlington many times to check on people that I know because they were built different than he is, and he doesn't understand it.
We're learning about an incident that took place when former President Trump visited Arlington National Cemetery for a wreath-laying ceremony on Monday. NPR was the first to report that 2 Trump campaign staffers had a confrontation with a cemetery official who tried to prevent them from filming. Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Chung denied portions of the report, saying that no physical altercation occurred, adding that the campaign would be willing to release footage, but that an official had tried to physically block members of the former president's team during the cemetery. Arlington National Cemetery later put out a statement confirming an incident took place and a report had been filed. The statement reads in part this way: federal law prohibits political campaign or election-related activities within Army National Military Cemeteries to include photographers, content creators, or any other persons attending for purposes or in direct support of a partisan political candidate's campaigns.
Commander Bobby Jones, it's good to have you on. I wish we were talking about something else. I got to be honest with you. This was not supposed to be the inaugural episode of the Ken Harbaugh show. We had a whole plan laid out, but true to form, the former president does something that demands a response, especially from veterans. And this was at Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery. Can you explain to folks who haven't served or haven't served recently the significance of Section 60 to folks like us?
It's hollowed ground is the best way to describe it. I've been trying to wrap my mind around all of this since I heard the report, right? Section 60, but any blade of grass at Arlington in particular, it is the most iconic real estate in America. And what I mean by that is, and the reason I'm kind of just on edge, ticked off about it, is I need to explain why Arlington matters, where I'm coming from here. Arlington is the living ledger of the cost of freedom that has been marked by those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and passed away. So to put it bluntly, in order for us to live our lives day to day, the toll of dead men and what they did to make it happen is at Arlington. That's what it is. It is literally a consistent reminder that continues to have more people added to it as we go about our day-to-day lives. So that's number one. Number two, if you serve any significant time in the military, unfortunately, you may know somebody that's at Arlington, not as just a random headstone, but someone you personally know. And the thing about going to Arlington, and I was thinking about this in detail last night when we talk about families, those families elect to have their loved ones go to Arlington, meaning they're not coming back to their hometown. The Gold Star mother does not get to see her son or daughter when she wants to, because she may live in California or Texas or Georgia or Florida. So it's the last great act of sacrifice by that military family to have that loved one committed to Arlington. Think about it. You can't go see your loved one because you want them to do one last thing of service. It's a sacrifice on the family's behalf too. And so to hear that former President Trump and his staff were there. And as I recall, I don't think he really went to Arlington much when he was actually commander in chief, number one. And number two, for his staffers to be so callous on such sacred ground, it's mind blowing. And they came out and denied it. But ask yourself this question: why would Arlington lie? Why would they lie? We're talking about the one place in America, no matter what is happening, there is someone standing watch. There is someone standing watch. That's how serious and solemn that is.
Hurricanes, tornadoes, they never break that watch.
They're there. So they have no reason to lie. Ken. They don't. And so what it does to me, to be honest, if I'm being very honest and blunt, is it re-emphasizes the fact that that one particular man, out of the 44 or 43 actually that were before him, is the first to enter that office without understanding that the office is not about him. The role of president is not about him. And you better believe the role of commander in chief is not about him. It's about everybody else. It's about everybody else. Allow families to have that dignified send off. Allow families to take in, without the chaos around them, what they're committing that loved one to do for the last time.
It is also clearly an indicator of the type of people he attracts. This was a staffer who had a physical altercation with a member of the Arlington National Cemetery staff who was trying to uphold the rules that were communicated very clearly beforehand. And in addition to denying that this ever happened, a campaign spokesperson accused this Arlington staffer of having a mental episode. Let me read the statement put out by the Trump campaign. Stephen Chung, a Trump campaign spokesperson, confirmed that an incident occurred, but denied there was an altercation. He said this in the campaign official statement. Quote, "The fact is that a private photographer was permitted on the premises, and for whatever reason, an unnamed individual clearly suffering from a mental health episode decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very solemn ceremony." I can hardly get through that without getting angry, because just who are you going to believe? Like you said at the top, are you going to believe the officials at Arlington who have maintained this sacred obligation in the case of the institution for 160 years? Or are you going to believe an individual and a campaign around him who lies habitually, and not only lies, but disparages those who tell the truth? That's what gets me about this statement.
I'll take it a step further. Those that work at Arlington, I've had conversations with some in the past over my career. Those that work at Arlington do not see what they do as a job. It's not even a career. It is a way of life. A way of life that has to deal with and take on all comers in various mental and emotional states when they step on the grounds. Okay. If anybody was uncomfortable, it's probably Trump staffers. This is the same man that freaked out when he had to land in Afghanistan. Freaked out, documented, multiple sources. He freaked out when he had to go see the people that he is ultimately in charge of, and most importantly, responsible for. And now you want me to believe that the people he surrounds himself with are the mentally stable individuals and the people who've been there for years, in some cases decades, are the ones having the mental breaks. It makes no logical sense. And let me just say this one more thing about Arlington. You know, he used the term, and he even confirmed it to himself this past week, about being losers and suckers, right? Each one of those white limestone markers would be what he would consider a loser and sucker. But you know what's interesting about that? Whether we're talking about the World War II generation, where a few are still here, they will make the pilgrimage to check on those people because they had genuine friends that go back 60, 70 years. Have you ever seen anybody that knew Donald Trump in his childhood, in his adolescence, in his college years, that have come to see him, to say hello, to enjoy his company? I can't think of any time that's happened, but I can tell you, I've been to Arlington many times to check on people that I know, because they were built different than he is, and he doesn't understand it. And so when he doesn't understand something, he lashes out. he lashes out. We should hope that every American views Arlington National Cemetery in a way that is reverent of the sacrifice and understand that those men and women there are not superheroes. They were just those that said, I'll go. And they wound up paying the ultimate sacrifice and ultimate price for that. And in Donald Trump's mind, his transactional mind, the calculus doesn't make sense. So instead of learning, he just falls apart on it.
It was at Arlington, right there in 2017, where he turned to his chief of staff, John Kelly, and maybe thinking out loud, or maybe actually bearing his soul for a brief instant, he offered that observation. What was in it for them? The suckers and losers comment comes out of Arlington National Cemetery. And here he is trying to profit off of the death of an American service member killed in Afghanistan. And it hits guys like you and me.
You know, and what really blows my mind is, so a lot of the defense that I've seen, people who are trying to defend them say, well, the family wanted him there. It's not about the family wanting him there. You should know better than to be there. You should know better. And then on top of that, too, for him to say that to John Kelly, forget the 4-star rank, forget the Marine Corps, forget the chief of staff. John Kelly is a Gold Star father. His son was killed in the line of duty for this nation. And the man said that to him. I don't care about that man's rank. I don't care about that man's politics. I don't care about that man's politics. He said that to the father of a fallen service member. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou.
That's right. That's right.
Believe them the first time. That was 2017. We're back here in 2024, and not a damn thing has changed.
I want to say something briefly about the Gold Star family, because I have a rule, and it holds here, that they get to grieve however they want. And this is not on them.
Exactly.
It's
exactly
the Trump campaign that released this photo. I'm going to put it up here with their faces blurred out, even though they aren't blurred out in the Trump campaign photo. This isn't on them. Far be it from me to tell the family of a dead service member how to process their grief. That's up to them. But for a former president to take advantage of them in this way, and then to pose with the thumbs up salute to MAGA, and there are, in some of those shots, there are people literally standing on the graves of dead soldiers with their thumbs up. And I hope Americans writ large react the way you and I have to this.
I can only hope, because I'm going to tell you right now, and the political debate is fast and furious post the conventions, but there's nothing political about honor and integrity. Those two things. You honor those that have fallen, you honor those that have gone before you, and you have the integrity to make sure that they are honored properly, not for your advantage, not because people are watching, but because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it with them. I really don't.
You have to wonder, though, what the reaction from the MAGA sphere would have been like had Vice President Harris or Governor Walz done something like this. They would have
been apoplectic.
Absolutely.
And this is where we as Americans forget politics again for a second. The standard is the standard. Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers, says it all the time. The standard is the standard. We as Americans have been known to have standards. The reason America is a superpower is because when our forces deploy all over the world, countries allow us in because they know we're going to abide by the Geneva Conventions and all those high standards that we have. The standard matters. I would love to ask those who are supporters of Donald Trump, does this man meet your standards as an American citizen? Again, take policy out. Anybody can be a vessel for policy. Does the man meet your standards. And if someone else did exactly what he has done since 2015 in the public sphere, would you approve? If you even have to hesitate to answer that question, then you know fundamentally something is off inside of you. Because the reality is we have never tolerated, nowhere close in the almost 200 and over 40 years of this republic, this type of behavior from the chief executive. We just never have. 34 times indicted and convicted of sexual assault, twice impeached, all in one man. Not an era of presidents, 1 4-year period.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Well, that is the test between now and November. I maintain my undying faith in this country and our ability to course correct and do the right thing. And I think we're going to do that in November, but it's going to take a lot of work between now and then. Commander Bobby Jones, thank you as always for joining us. This is going to be the very first episode of the Ken Harbaugh Show. We'll get into the regular swing of things after that, but thank you so much for kicking us off.
My pleasure, Ken, and thanks for having me. And like I said, what's the standard, America?
What's the standard?
What's the standard for your leaders?
Hey, it's Ken Harbaugh, and like I mentioned at the very top of this conversation with Commander Bobby Jones, this was not supposed to be the first episode of the Ken Harbaugh Show. But Donald Trump's callous disrespect for the hallowed ground of Arlington National Cemetery demanded a response today. I'll be back tomorrow and every weekday hosting the Ken Harbaugh Show. Please do us a huge favor and subscribe to the podcast version. The link is below. Thanks for the support.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.